Hi everyone, my name is Jim Lewis. I'm the founder of Model Train Technology, and we've been having a lot of fun at the workshop recently. We came out with the LED lighting controller, the animation product, last summer, and the reception of that's been terrific. We've made some improvements and some ads. One of the things built into this is the 16-channel triggers, which can be triggered from DCC. But not everybody has DCC, and what we've discovered over the years is a lot of button pushing while you're running the trains is kind of problematic. So people were looking for different ways to handle triggering both the lighting controller as well as our sound module, which will and can be triggered by DCC. So we've come up with this new product. It's an 16-button keypad with a little tail here, and it has all of the terminal strips in the back. So there's a couple of different things. We made this kind of universal in the sense that it can work with the sound module, which I'll show you first, but it will also allow you to trigger the lighting controller. And we've got a special treat in store where we have the hub sensor, which was originally designed for triggering the micro boards, but you can connect this straight into the lighting controller and trigger through push buttons that you put out in the layout, or you can connect up any of our detector systems. So any of the detectors, whether a precision detector or the recently announced current sensing detector, that will all work. But a few folks said, well, I just want to, can you set up the buttons for me? Well, this is what we've got. So this is a 16-button push, and there's a socket in the back, and so I'm going to just set this up. The first thing you do is connect the sound module in the back, connect this little wire. We're going to add power, all right, and turn that on. Now what's going to happen is the first thing that's going to happen is the light's going to go on. It's going to detect the sound chip, and then it's going to blink. The last couple of blinks were letting you know that the keypad is connected. And so I've set this up now. Instead of having just 4 tracks on the sound module, you can have 16. And because of the chip that we included here, which is called a TF card, it has this one has 2 gigabytes. So you can put 32 gigabytes on this and play your entire music album for an entire week off of the sound controller. It is possible. And those chips now are not expensive, so you can just go crazy. Let me put that off to the side for a minute. All right, so I'm just going to push the one button here, and just like we have with the trigger on board, we've just got a simple button push. And we've got other sounds that we can go through here. Here's another one. Different bell. Here's the steam engine. All right. And what we've got now is also the ability through the configurations that you can use pushing the buttons to set this to play once or repeat or interrupt. All of the features that were part of the original sound module you can now set up with the keypad. There's one default sound out of the 16 you can set up. So if you don't have the keypad connected, you connect the keypad, set up the sound that you want, then you can disconnect the keypad and you'll have that track as your default track on here. So that's pretty cool. So one of the things that we added, which is not in the original sound module, is toggles. So when we're using the lighting controller, we want to be able to toggle with the button. That means turn it on and leave it on, and then press again to turn it off. So if we have building lightings, or we might have a flashing emergency vehicle or something, you want to push it and leave it on. So number 9 is some little ragtime we programmed onto the chip. If you haven't seen the chip before, let me just pop that out. It's very small, and it's just amazing technology. So we'll just slide that in there, and what I'm going to do is just turn it on, and there you got a little ragtime. All right, so there's different, here's an announcement. Now if I take my finger off of that, it stops. So really for the announcement, what I wanted to do is play the announcement full to the end. It's very short, and then stop, and then we'll go on to something else. So there's a whole cheat sheet card here, and so we'll just set up that one setup. We're going to use 8, and so there's a standard mode for when you don't have this connected, and we're going to use a 16 button config mode. And what we want to use is the option which is number 5, play once. So the first thing that we do is put it into config mode, and we hold this button, and I'll have to lift this up so I can see. So when the light comes back on and it's blinking, it's now in configuration mode. So to get it into that mode, you just press the button and hold it until the light comes back on and it's blinking. All right, now what we want to do is press the button that we want to select the behavior for. So it's going to be button 8, and we want to press it 5 times to play once. So that means play that track and then stop. So I'm going to press this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right. Now what's going to happen is this 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Pause. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so what happens now is after you press a button, it's still in config mode. It's going to repeat the button number. So it's going to show you 8 blinks to let you know, sure enough, you've got the 8th button there. And it'll pause for a second, and then it will blink the number of times of the option, in this case 5. So there is something here called a recite mode. And if you press that twice, it'll go through for each pin. And there could be multiple configurations. So for example, it might blink twice and then blink 6 times. Wait, blink twice and then blink 7 times, and so forth. It's a little bit cumbersome, but once you get the hang of it, it goes very quickly. So there's, in the chart here, we have recite, interrupts. So one track can interrupt another. So the example there, and we've used that before, is you might have railroad station sounds, background sounds, people talking, moving around. And then, since this only plays one track at a time, when the train hits the trigger for the bell, you want it to stop playing the background station noises, play the bell for as long as that's valid, the train passes, and then it will kick back into the mode that it was in before, which in that case was playing the station sounds. So a lot of fun with that. Also the toggle on and toggle off. All right, so let's get it out of config mode. You just press it once to exit. Okay, the light went off. Now what we're going to do is press this. Amtrak now arriving on track 1. And see, it played all the way through without stopping. So that's called play once. Now one of the things, this is getting into the bell crossing gate kind of topic. So if you have a layout and the train's going around and there's a crossing gate, and every single time it sets the bell off, and it just keeps going while a train's passing, what you can do is create a short bell sound and have it play once rather than repeating that sound. It'll play that and stop even though the train's going. So for modeling purposes in your own layout, you would do that. Of course, that's not prototypical, but that kind of capability is possible. So, all right, let's take a pause for a second and set up the lighting controller, and we'll do some of the same things with pressing the button and seeing the animations happen. Okay, I've got the lighting controller here, and I've disconnected the keypad, and on the right hand side there's a little plug or socket, pardon me, for that, and you just stick the keypad in there, and that's all there is to it. So let's turn on the lighting controller. And this is not going to be a full explanation about how the lighting controller works. There's a video for that separately. So I'm going to go pretty quickly through how it works. Right now there's nothing set up. There's nothing blinking, pardon me. So I'm going to push this into configuration mode. And so I have the first light on because I'm in port 1. I can go to port 2 and set up any of these ports. There are 16 ports. And you'll notice it says mode 3 blink. All right. So I'm going to just have this first light blink. So I'm going to put it back in an animation mode, but you'll notice it does not blink. And that's because I previously set trigger 1 to port 1. So let's take a look at that. So I'm going to go across here to the triggers. Here's the trigger, and it says port 1, trigger 1, port 1. So that means that if I activate port 1, I'm going to get trigger 1, I'm going to get port 1. Now you can mix and match and have trigger 1 over here turn on and off a whole set of different pins and animations, and you don't have to line it up one to one. You could set this pin to go off at 1 and this one to go triggered by pin 16. Doesn't matter. So a lot of flexibility. All right, so that we know this is triggered and set up, we're going to go back into animation mode, and I'm going to press 1, and you can see that the light is blinking. All right, so pretty simple, and I don't have anything on 9. That was set up before. So you can set up this for, so I have to hold this button for flashing. But just like with the sound controller, there's a mode to set this up to toggle so that the button will stay on at, you don't have to hold the button. So again, these are available now. It goes on to the lighting controller or the sound controller. Now, one of the things that we did, we set up, is we wanted to have the sound, there's actually a sound which is a lightning sound, and we wanted to flash the lighting controller to flash when that happens. So we push the button here, and in that case what we do is we set up the hub, we connect that in, so let me turn this off. What we did is, I'll just lay it out the basics for you here. We'll plug in the lighting controller. Now we can have sensors coming into this. We can also have sensors coming out of it. So what we did is we set up the hub, the micro hub here. So now anytime I connect these wires, the number 3 light will go on. And if I connect that to the pin here, in addition to input to the whole sound system, if I press this button, it connects the circuit for the light. That's way cool. So we can press the button for lightning, hear the lightning crack, and have the flashing on the lighting controller. So I'm going to take a break and set that up and show you what that's like, and then we'll be right back. Okay, I've come around to the other side of the camera here, and give you a close-up. All right, so what I've done is I reconnected the 16 pad key back to the sound, and button 6 is the thunderclap, if you will. So then I went back to the lighting controller and set several of these pins at the end to our lightning simulation. There's 3 different kinds of lightning, essentially the different durations and pulses of the lightning. And then I also sent them, I used the button here, number 6, and I set the trigger to 6. I didn't really have to do that because I could use any pin because I'm going to connect it hardwired with the sensor hub here. But just to keep things common and remember what's going on here. So then I hooked the sensor hub up to the lighting controller, and we're just going to use half. So there's 16 inputs into the sensor hub. Here's the wiring harness. Since I'm using 2 different power supplies, there's not a common ground between them, but we've designed around that. And so there's a common ground here. Now, if you just wanted to use a push button, you just connect the ground to the push button and any one of these wires, and that's how you trigger it. Well, we're going to do the same thing here. We connected the ground. The 2 left-hand pins here are the ground wires, and then it goes 1 through 16 for the rest of the pins. So I found the 6th wire, the number 6 wire for the trigger 6 here, and I connected it to the 6th pin. Again, just for convenience and consistency here. So what's going to happen here is when I push 6, I'm triggering the sound track number 6 to go off, and I'm also via this wire triggering the animation controller. Any port that's set up to trigger 6 will fire and begin its animation. So let's do it. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Now that is wicked cool. I've been wanting to have this demonstrated for years, and we got it all working, and it's pretty generic. Now I could push this put this as a toggle and just leave it on, or interestingly enough, I could hook up another input wire along with the green. So even though the green is going out here sort of as a ground for the lighting controller, I could use a precision detector, and the output signal of that fed into this same pin, and it would trigger the animation as the train goes by. Now, that would leave me with the button 6 in parallel. So I could use either or one of the buttons or an external trigger to fire off any sound, any one of the 16 sounds on the module, and go into any one or more of the triggers on the lighting controller. So this is the ecosystem that we've been building. Super, super simple. Everything is just plug and play, ready to go. There are a million different variations, but you got the basic idea. So anyway, thanks for watching. I'd love to hear your comments about that and your ideas about how you would combine lighting, animation, and sound. After we shot the video for this whole setup with the lightning and we played it, we realized the sound was a little muffled. And that's because I'm behind the camera about 12 or 14 inches away from the speaker. So I disconnected the microphone, and I'm going to just play it again, so create a little more drama here. So the speaker is plenty loud, and it sounds great in person. It might not and you can hear me in the back because the microphone is about a foot away. One last thing that we forgot to mention is that this push button setup can be used in a different way. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn off the power, and this is typically the way you're going to use it, but you can disconnect this, and so there's only one plug, but what you can do is you can connect each of the 4 outputs, 1, 2, 3, 4, to each of the inputs on an individual sound module. That's what this is. This is a sort of a converted Bell module specific for using this setup. But you could have 4 sound modules with the 4 pins connected 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5, 6, 7, 8, and so forth. So you'd get a total of 16. You can run 4 sounds off of this one push button, one of 4 at the same time. Now you can really go crazy and use the Bell module, change it from a Bell module to anything you want, and have 16 individual sounds scattered out all over the layout to match the 16 push buttons on this pad. And likewise, you could still connect those to the sensor hub so that individual sounds that you have on the layout also turn on particular animations that were driven by the animation controller. So a lot of possibilities, and we just wanted to sneak that in at the end of the video to give you some more ideas to think about.